all the cars. Hold on here a second. No, by all means, take your time. Well, you took your time too much, didn't you? Now you're buried. Ha ha! Probably not the safest place to go for a walk, but no hurt there. Wait for something to show up here if anybody wants to come on. I just pulled out of a gas station, and there was an old homeless guy standing there out front, just kind of hanging out. I asked the clerk, "Is that guy here often?" She says, "Yeah, he hangs out here." His eyes were glazed. It was like his eyes were, you could just see the age on the guy. Well, I went and have various pairs of sunglasses here in my vehicle, reading glasses and whatnot. And I had a pair of sunglasses, came in a 3-pack. They were sunglasses with cheaters in it for, small print, like reading glasses. And I don't really wear them, so I gave it to the guy. He looked on his face, something to protect his eyes, I think, because his eyes were looking rough from sun damage. But a pair of sunglasses with some reading glasses built in. I thought that was kind of a thing to do this morning. Important. Hey, Universal, what's up, mister? Yeah, heading out of town here. I'll give you a recap of how this is unfolded last 2 days. I drove to North Carolina, dropped a load and picked up a load in the exact same spot. They literally unloaded my cargo and set it down, and the forklift turned, picked up one, and put it in. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I have, because of the holiday weekend, I'm strolling towards Chicago for the drop with the crate I have in here now. And yesterday I went to the Kentucky Air Museum and walked around. They had Wi-Fi. It streamed pretty well. But that gave me something to do yesterday and kept me occupied. And again, in my desire to mosey this direction, I dialed up another museums in general, kind of heading across Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, just heading up. Some are closed, some are temporarily closed, some are permanently closed. There was no pattern to it. And kind of find what I'm looking for. Well, going straight west out of Lexington, I found a museum over here. And on paper, it looked like, it was World War II-esque. So I drove this way after leaving the Air Museum. And I stopped at a Pilot last night, yesterday afternoon. I was just kind of hanging out, waiting for the daylight to go away. And I started looking at the museum a little closer. And I tell you what, they were doing a really good sales pitch. They were trying to sell that museum for a whole lot more than it was, because it was just a single hangar. I literally got on Google Earth and found the place. It's one building, just one square building, and it's not big enough to really hold anything, and it's not big enough to entertain me, because I demand entertainment. So I dug around a little more, and I found a museum here in Evansville. It's a museum ship, and I tried to stream this morning because it wasn't actually open, and the stream didn't work. No one showed up. So I did the research on the ship. It's called the LST 325. I have posted a video about it. I stood outside and filmed it. They do tours, which is fine, but I don't like doing tours. I like walking around doing my own thing. I like to talk, I like to narrate, I like to point out. I'm pretty up to date on military hardware, equipment, and stuff like that. So when they said it's a guided tour, I'm like, it's going to take you into places I don't want to go and show you things that don't really interest me. And now that I've learned that Wi-Fi and streaming are good friends, I did some research, and they don't have Wi-Fi. So I'm looking at this ship with no Wi-Fi, and once you get into the bowels, your reception is going to go poof. and being forced to walk around and listen to some guy droning on more than me, because I drone on a lot, I think, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. So I stood outside without doing the tour and filmed the building, filmed the ship from the front so you can see what an LST looks like. An LST stands for Landing Ship Tank, and I talk about its history because I did research. And not only is the reason they do the guided tour only is it's an actual seagoing ship. It's not a sit at the dock forever, but they actually take it and go places. And they said this coming week they were going to motor off and go do something. So my plan today was to tour that ship and then to drive as quickly as possible about 50 miles north to another museum. It's apparently over 14 acres inside and outside, with equipment going back to the Civil War, the Revolutionary War. I'm not really sure, but from what I can see, it's a lot bigger and a lot more detailed. So I was excited about that. So I have left Evansville. I did not go on the LST because I didn't want to get pigeonholed into what they wanted to do. And I am now driving up the highway, or the whatever road this is, and I'm going to this other museum that's about 40 minutes away. And with 14 acres to play with, I think I can entertain myself walking around there. And that's the plan. And after that place, I'm done there. I'm going to mosey north a little more and try to find a Planet Fitness. Go spend the afternoon doing the Planet Fitness thing and then take a shower. And then I got to find a place to hole up again. And again, Monday's holiday and museums are closed. Normally, I don't know, this is kind of weird, but museums have a tendency to be closed on Mondays under normal circumstances. Now you add in holiday weekend and they're doubly closed. So I'm not sure what the plan is for tomorrow. But, I am going to go to Planet Fitness. There's two ways to join Planet Fitness: a normal, called a subscription, and then the black card. And the normal one means you have to use the one by your house. And if you have a black card, you can go to any of them. And I use it because I work out somewhat, and I do the treadmills and whatnot. But I use the shower. When you're on the road, you got to find a place to get cleaned up. So that's the plan. So right now, we are motoring up whatever road this is, heading towards this other, it's a war museum in general, and we'll see what they have. And something that's interesting is people bring home collectibles from the war zones. They pick up souvenirs, and at some point in their life they either donate them or they die off and their family donates them, and a lot of interesting stuff pops up in some of these museums. One guy his great-grandkid walked into a military museum and handed him a wheel, the spoke wheel off a Jenny biplane from World War I that you just happened to have in his barn. Like, yeah, that's something everybody has. But I was in the gift shop of the LST 325 museum, and for reasons I don't know, they had a bolt-action Japanese rifle from the war, which I've actually seen those. A lot of guys brought those home from the Pacific. It was a rifle that had been in manufacture since 1897 up until they never changed it. And the Germans were exact same way. They had the Mauser 98K had been built since 1898. That was something interesting to me about World War II is the Brits had the 303 Enfield, the Germans had the 98K, the Japanese had the Type 97, all bolt action. The Italians had a bizarre conglomerate in inconsistent lines of bolt action rifles, and the United States had the Garand semi-automatic. We are literally the only country that issued semi-automatic weapons, and the amount of firepower you can kick out with a semi-automatic rifle over a bolt action rifle is catastrophic. It's just so much. It was an 8-round stripper clip. In combat, you lose equipment. It's the nature of combat to the enemy. And a prized piece of equipment was a Garand rifle. If the Germans could get their hands on one, they would covet that because it was a wildly superior weapon. But I want to motor up here and see what we can find. About 20 years ago, I was playing around on eBay. I used to be on eBay all the time. It's kind of, eBay's still there. It's not as shiny as it used to be, but it's still there. And there was a guy selling a samurai sword with photographs and documentation. It was picked up on Iwo Jima, and it had a buy it now price of $100,000. And I came back to look at it later that day, and it was gone. Like, wow. Lovely roads we're having. Lovely roads we're having today. Oh, this light's going to catch me, isn't it? I am motoring from Evansville, Indiana, northbound. This is probably not a good idea, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yep, that was a bad idea. Head northbound if you're just jumping in. And I'm going to wow, the guy behind me ran. That wasn't even close, dude. I hit a red light. Yeah, we're going to a military museum. It's like the Indiana Military Museum. It's up here in the town of Vincennes or something. But from what I can read online, it's 14 acres indoor-outdoor, so that's right up my alley. So we are motoring up here right now. The place is actually open in the next 3 minutes, but we're not going to be there for another 40. But I'm just letting you know that's the plan. I'm going to live stream that place. I just left, and if you're just getting here, I was going to go do a tour of an LST, the LST 325 in Evansville. It's a landing ship. LST is landing ship, combo tank, and it's the ships, the shallow draft ships that would drive up on the beach and open the front end and drop the ramp, and tanks and trucks drove out. It was that place, but the setup was all wrong. They don't have Wi-Fi, and it's a guided tour only, and they take you inside the ship, and once you go inside the ship, the stream's gone. It just wouldn't work. So I'm going to come up here and spend my stream time at this museum. It's not only my area of interest is World War II and Korea, and this one I think goes back to the Revolutionary War, but I will tour that within the limits of what I can do, because my knowledge of those wars is not very high. But this is just the Sunday morning tour, the Sunday morning cruise up the road. I just bought fuel. I used Upside, saved 12 cents a gallon, and I got the cruise set on 54. In case anybody's wondering, I'm getting 23.2 miles per gallon. Let me try this lane real quick, because this one is rattling my teeth. Yeah, it's about the same. I'll get back over. So this is just a mosey drive up the road here. We are skirting the border with Illinois. It's like right on our left door. This is Highway 41. Anybody's looking on the map. This is how I occupy my time when I have a load and I have a weekend to burn. Is I will find museums, and I used to tour them just for my own interest. But now that I've discovered streaming, I stream them. Because you may or may not have the opportunity to go to one of these because you're never in the area, so might as well, right? Lovely roads we're having. Ooh. So as soon as I get up here, I'm going to park. It's going to be probably around 11:45 Central, which is 45 minutes from now. I'll be parked, and I'm going to go in and buy a ticket, and I'm going to start my stream. I hope they have Wi-Fi. I'm going to find out, and if not, I'll be outdoors part of the time, so that'll make up for reception problems. I got red kicked in when I tried to live stream a Titanic touring museum over in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and it was so interrupted, people said it was just garbage. So I have learned my lesson about live streaming. And out your right door is where I spent the night last night. I slept there. that bad. In case anybody's wondering. That was the P lot. Yeah, I drove over here for a completely different museum, but then upon further review, there wasn't a whole lot going on there, and I was like, well, that was a wasted trip. Coming through Chicago with God as my witness, I saw a sign that was advertising the Sock Puppet Museum. Sock Puppet. Wow. There's up here north a ways, there is an Ernie Pyle Museum, which, in my humble opinion, is not going to last much longer because there's not a lot of people alive who remember who Ernie Pyle was. He was a journalist during World War II that wrote a column from the front lines on a personal level. This is before everybody had TV, documentaries, and stuff. He wrote from a very personal level people and what they were doing. And nationwide, he was universally loved for his stories that he told so people could understand what was happening. And under fire, and he jumped off the Jeep and everybody jumped in the ditch. I guess he poked his head up and a bullet got him and killed him. And that was the end of that. And somebody has a museum for him. But again, there's the Ernie Pyle Museum. It's all based on, you have to have people around that know who he is or what he was for a museum really to thrive. There was Roy Rogers. Roy Rogers had a huge museum out in California. On his deathbed, he said, if this place becomes unprofitable or it doesn't draw people, just close it down, sell everything, close it down, call it off. And he's a smart guy. Roy Rogers was a big deal in the 40s and 50s, 60s. That was, his crowd. Well, that crowd is fading away. His audience that grew up with him are fading away. And sure enough, he died a few years ago, and the Roy Rogers Museum kind of faded out, and they shut it down. And it's sad, but I think that's going to happen to the Ernie Pyle Museum too, because it costs money to run those things. Some on entrance fees and some on donations, but either way, they're not free to operate. And if you don't have a crowd, you're out of business. Under the Brandon administration, they opened an EPA museum with your tax dollars, which is nothing more than a very expensive new building with posters on the wall and legislature of all the regulations and the clamping down they did on people, like proud of themselves. Spent millions of tax dollars to get this thing open and running, and as soon as Trump got elected, he shut it down. It's like, what's the point? Nobody cares. It's like having the parking ticket museum. Here's the guy that wrote the most parking tickets. Hooray for you. Or the Lost Luggage Museum, where they can proudly show all the people's luggage that they misrouted and disappeared. It's just certain things you just don't make museums for. That's one of them. So we're going up here to I think it's the Indiana War Museum, I think is what it's called. I'll get the official name right up here. 24 miles per gallon. So we're northbound northbound 41 out of Evansville, heading toward Vincennes, Indiana. We are skirting the border just on our left side of Illinois. Head north. This is my lazy weekend to get towards South Chicago, because I got 3 days to drive, 700 miles or 600 miles, so what's the rush? When we get up here, I'm going to set up all my solar panels to charge all my electronics back up again tonight. There's another expediter out there I ended up hanging out with in Morgantown, West Virginia for a day and a half. And he started a YouTube channel. He's fairly new, and it's called Expedited Journey. Oh, come on. This is getting ridiculous. That's two I've done that to. Expedited Journey, and he is talking the Expedite game. His van is also flawlessly clean and set up inside. It's rather annoying. But his sporting activity is something called disc golf, what you and I would call frisbee golf. And he's into it. And he's got a bag with like 30 different little discs in it. And the different ones do different things. It's just like golfing. There's a long drive and a short and a putter. And I'm like, wow. And whether or not that sport interests you, what he does do is he gets out in nature. He's got a daughter, his teenage daughter goes with him. And they go out and they do this sport. So they get to spend time together. They get to walk around out in these fairways and these setups. And he talks about he's really, really into it. And it's going to be kind of fun to watch how he edits his videos. He's a lot better at editing than I'll ever be. But Expedited Journey, go check him out. He's, like I said, he's only got a handful of subscribers, so it'd be kind of cool to get it on the ground level. Real nice guy. Okay, I'm not going to do this one. I'm not doing this one. Screech. Screech. You remember a movie that came out in the 70s called Walking Tall? And it was about Southern Sheriff something Pusser, Tom Pusser, something Pusser. And he was this tough on crime, gonna clean up, the county. And they even made the movie about the guy. And in 1967, he and his wife got quote unquote ambushed and shot full of holes, and his wife died and he didn't. They just found out yesterday, DNA, he killed his own wife. It wasn't an ambush. I was like, wow. And that guy died in the 70s, so it doesn't really matter. But they just found out this tough on crime, big time operator was a murderer. Oops. Yeah, something. His last name was Pusser. Back up. The speed. It's 60. I'm going 54. Why? Because I'm not in a hurry to get up here. I'm saving gas. There was a homeless guy back at the gas station here 20 minutes back. Old guy. And his eyes, someone who's been outdoors in the sun, their eyes look like there's no eyes there. Well, he was sitting off the side, and I bought a 3-pack of sunglasses with reading cheaters, reading glasses built in on the corners. I handed him a pair. I said, here, I got 3 of these if you'd like a set. The look on his face was pretty shocked that someone would give him something. And he's like, he looked at it, he looked at something, he says, wow, I can actually read that. I was like, yeah, have a set. He was very thankful. So that was my good deed of the day. If you're just coming in, I just left Evansville, Indiana, which is in the southwest corner. I'm heading northbound. I was going to a museum, and it turned out I was going to a museum ship's called the LST 325. And LST is a landing ship, tank. It's the ship that drives up on the beach, opens the doors, drops the ramps and the tanks and the trucks and the jeeps and the trailers all pour out onto a hostile beach. It's the only one left in the world. I was getting ready to do a tour of it, and I did some research and found out they don't have Wi-Fi. And if you're indoors, you don't have Wi-Fi. I found out the hard way. Streaming doesn't work worth a crap. And I'm looking at this solid steel ship, and they don't have Wi-Fi. And I said, okay, I'm going to have to wander around and kind of be strategic. And they say, oh, we don't let you wander loose on the ship. you have to be on a tour, a guided tour. And I'm like, that's not going to work because it'll just be completely cut out. So I stood outside on a dock and I filmed the ship and talked about its history. It's kind of interesting background. And it's posted, the video is up. And I was talking about going on it and I just kind of weighed the pros and cons and realized it probably wouldn't work. So I am currently motoring north up here to the town of Vincennes, and there is what I believe is called the Indiana War Museum, which is indoor-outdoor, and apparently it covers 14 acres. So that's going to be interesting. I think I can work with this one. I'm doubling down on museums today because museums under normal circumstances are not open on Mondays for some reason. And holiday weekend, they're doubly not open. So I'm going to go do this one, and then I got to come up with a plan for, I don't know, tomorrow, because I can't make my delivery until Tuesday, after Labor Day's over, with my little crate I got here in the back. So we continue to drive north on 41. I'm kind of enjoying the fact that here in the summertime it's actually getting cold at night. It was down in the 50s last night, which means I don't have to run my air conditioner. I don't have to hook up my AC system. So I've been enjoying that. Bumps. 54. Ooh, farm country. Showing about 30 minutes to go, and I'm gonna start a fresh stream at the museum when I get up here. If anybody has a question, a comment, or a topic, throw it out there. We can run with it. Kind of like it when questions pop up. Makes the stream flow a little bit easier. I like to stream at night because it's calm out here, and I like a lot of people come on at night, and it's fun to talk, and it also keeps me awake. Construction sites, and you wonder if they're getting paid by the hour more than by the project, based on how long it takes to finish. Ooh, lights on up. Don't worry about stopping, dude. Just go ahead and pull it out. That stop sign doesn't apply to you. Oh, I'm in the same time zone as my wife. Okay, it's 10:15. I'm in Central. I forgot. When I get up here, I'm gonna call the wifey and check in with her. I don't like waking her up early. When I put gas in a little while ago, the gun clicked off, and I thought it was full. I tried to jam a little extra, and it clicked off again. I said, all right, I'm full. I'm just being a pain in my ass. So I'm at 7. I got gas down here because Illinois gas prices are ridiculous. And I have to go, my drop on Tuesday is in south central Chicago, and then in the afternoon, I got to go just across the border into Wisconsin to pick up another package that's going over by Cleveland. And it's a 4 o'clock pickup, but with rare exception, when you get there early, they load you and send you out on your way. So as soon as I drop my morning load, I'm going to head up north and just kind of let them know I'm there, more or less. Just say, hey, I'm in the area, I'll be out here. And they have a tendency to go, oh, here's your package. They just get rid of it. Put it in the done category. And then I got to motor over around Chicago, through Cleveland, through Toledo, which is where our office, the head office is, and I can drop off my paperwork, do my laundry, take a shower, and then the package is due in the morning on a little town along the coast between Toledo and Cleveland, a little bitty town called Lorain. And I'm going to go hide out at the Pilot, which just conveniently happens to be right in that neighborhood, and then we'll see what happens from there. So that'll be Wednesday morning. And I've already got 2 deliveries for the week, which is pretty good. I'm starting to think I take good highways for granted. Because I'm noticing all these thumps and bumps and potholes and rough spots on the roads all of a sudden. I enjoyed my tour of that museum, the Kentucky Air Museum yesterday. The Cobras, the Cobra helicopter that I flew, they have one of the model over there. The serial numbers were freakishly close to the one I flew. But I like seeing those. They pop up a lot. They've completely retired them. They're no longer in inventory. My MOS in the military was 153 Golf. And that MOS doesn't even exist anymore. And they don't even have them. They don't have Cobras in National Guard units anymore. There was, I don't know if they still have it, but Florida had 2 Cobras used for firefighting. And the reason they use it is if you strip out the weapon systems and the armor, that aircraft gets really light really fast because your weapon systems have weight. The hydraulic systems attached to it weigh, and the seats alone weigh 200 pounds apiece with armor. So just yanking the seats out saves you 400 pounds. Then you pull out the ammo bay and you pull out, all of a sudden you have lightened up that airframe by probably 40% of the airframe. Weight goes away. That guy's in a hurry. And you can hook, and let's say your visibility in an aircraft's only 36 inches wide. Look left, look right, you can always see. You're not like blinded by a sign. So I guess they call it a Firehawk, I believe is what they called it. But Florida owned, I think, 2 of them, but I don't know if they can get them worked on a major level anymore. I don't know how. I think Bell Helicopter washed their hands of it, which happens. Picking up the pace here, because we're got some vehicles behind us. Showing 19 miles. Yep. 23.4. There's some rock. I'm curious where that came from. Alright, there, now you can go around me and speed back up again. Go for it. So I'm slowing back down. These are little farm towns. Northbound Highway 41, Evansville to Vincennes. We are in the southwest corner of Indiana, heading north. We are skirting the Illinois border right now, en route to a museum up here I want to hit. According to the website, it's indoor-outdoor and it's 14 acres, so that should keep me entertained for a while. Questions or comments are always welcome. I like having weekend runs because if you don't get one like this, you're just sitting in one spot for days and it's murderously boring. It's kind of unusual unless you're in a very specific area to get a load on Saturday, and it's almost impossible to get a load on a Sunday. So catching one on a Friday with a Monday delivery is a good thing. But this is a 3-day weekend, so this is a Tuesday delivery. So I am occupying myself by strolling across country, heading to my target, but hitting museums on the way. Sorry. My nose done stuff it up a little bit last night. So we are 16 miles from our destination here in Vincennes, Indiana, Indiana. I think you say Indiana Warren. There is a museum west of Hobby Airport in Houston. It's on the western side of the Hobby property, and it's called the Terminal Museum. And it is the original terminal they had. They operated in there from 1940 to 1955, and the control tower was made out of copper, and it is now corroded green color. But it's the old building, and you could walk through, and they have pilot and flight attendant outfits and signs and memorabilia and all the things you had back then. And the two things at that museum that stood out to me, first of all, were flight attendant uniforms up into the 1970s that, God is my witness, would not fit on a 10-year-old girl today. They are so tiny. And they had one display case, and it's like a glass case, like, say, at a jewelry store, except it was really big. And it had at least 150 tossed in decks of playing cards. Because back in the day, they would give you playing cards, a package of airlines, all printed everything. You sit there and play cards with yourself or the person next to you. And it was all the people had them in their cabinets, I guess, for years, because they haven't done that in decades. But you always had decks of cards to sit there. That's how you occupied your time. And looking into that case where they just took buckets full and poured them in there of all the different airlines that are gone, and it was like, wow, there's a flashback 50 years ago. Wow. And they used to feed you real food on the planes. They started cutting corners, charging you to check your bags, and charging you for food, and all this, garbage has changed over the years. And people think it's normal. It wasn't like that. They used to serve real food. Here, a year and a half ago, the wife and I went on a trip to Colorado, and just for fun, I put us up in first class on a 777. I'd never been on a 777, but there were 2 seats available, and they weren't that expensive up front, so I put us in them. Big lounge chairs and almost flat to the ground, and they served us real live, honest to God food up there. I mean, it was good. Good presentation and good food. We're like, wow. And I don't recall eating like that on a plane since, like, yeah, the 1970s. And I was like, wow. But we don't usually fly them first. I just goofing off that day and enjoyed it. And they had a huge storm that had just blown over Houston. So the plane got out on the ramp and they weren't moving, and they saved fuel. They announced that they shut one of the engines down, save fuel, let the other one run to keep power going at idle. And we were sitting out on the ramp for an hour before they let us take off. And we're laying up there in these lounge chairs with these rather large TV screens with movie selections, getting fed, going, yeah, we're good. We're good. You can leave us here. No complaints. Then we got to the destination, and I announced to my wife, we have to get off. And she says, no, I'm still watching this movie. And I said, well, we're getting ready to land. And she's like, well, I don't really care. We're staying. I don't want to give up my seat. It was that also an experience. So if you're ever going on a trip, especially a long trip, and you have the option on a 777 or a 787, and there's a first class seat available, check the price. These were not that expensive. They were actually shockingly cheap. And I clicked on them before somebody else snatched them up. If you want to have that experience, because it was really not. Lost my feet. All right, I'm going to shut this one down. I'm going to recharge some stuff, and I'll be coming back on here the tour.